Okay, so we're diving deep today into a topic that I know a lot of you have been asking about, the crazy world of English word stress.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. We got so many questions about why it can feel so random, and particularly why stress can even shift, in words that are related.
Yeah.
And of course, the most important question, how to get it right
Right.
in your own pronunciation. So to tackle this, we've been digging into an episode of English with Confidence, and the title alone is pretty intriguing. Why English Hates Consistent Word Stress, and How to Fake It Till You Make It.
I like that title.
It's a good one, right? And it's actually a really good deep dive into this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission, I think, is to figure out, okay, what are the hidden patterns here? What are some of the practical tricks? And really kind of unlock that secret code of English word stress.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like it is a bit of a secret code,
Yeah.
You're trying to figure it out. You hear someone say, like, photo, and then you hear them say photography. You're like, wait, what just happened there?
Right.
Or even just the same word,
Yeah.
but the meaning changes. The stress changes the meaning.
Ooh.
Like content if you're happy, but
Yeah.
then content, like what's inside something.
Yeah.
It's the same word.
Yeah.
It's just the stress changes it.
Exactly.
And I know even for myself, as someone who, grew up speaking English,
Yeah.
there are still words where I'm like, wait, is it intelligent? I don't know.
Oh, for sure. I think everyone has those words, even native speakers,
Yeah.
where you kind to second guess yourself. So yeah, I mean, today we're going to tackle those linguistic puzzles. We're going to try to figure out what's going on with English word stress, why it does what it does.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So I guess starting at the beginning, what makes it feel so chaotic?
So the English with Confidence episode really pointed to this idea of the history of English.
Ah, okay.
And I know we've talked about this before, but English is not like a single source language.
Yeah.
It's like a patchwork quilt. It's from all these different traditions, different languages. They kind of smush their way into English. And because of that, we have this really complicated history that's reflected in how we stress words.
So what are some of those influences specifically?
So they pointed to French first.
Okay.
And this is kind of interesting because French likes to put emphasis at the end of the word on the final syllable. So think about words like hotel or ballet.
Okay. Yeah.
There's that kind of lift at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's totally from French.
Okay. Interesting. So what about the other side of things?
So then you have Germanic,
Yeah.
which is kind of the opposite.
Oh, okay.
It likes to put the emphasis right at the beginning of the word on that first syllable.
Uh-huh.
So think of words like hamburger
Okay.
or water.
Gotcha, yeah.
That really strong initial stress, that's very Germanic.
Okay, so we've got the end and the beginning, and then to make things even more confusing, there's...
To stir the pot, we have Latin and Greek.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. Why not? And these guys, they like to stress the second to last syllable, the penultimate syllable.
Yeah.
So a word like philosophy.
Okay.
You hear how that emphasis is kind of in the middle there
Yeah.
on that lost syllable.
Yeah, yeah.
So the thing is, English didn't just pick one system and stick with it. It was like, I like all of these.
Let's just use all of them.
Let's just use all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And the English with Confidence episode called it a messy mix, which I think is very accurate.
It really is. And that kind of explains why we get these patterns that don't seem to line up at all.
Right.
Like you were saying, photo stresses at the beginning, photographer, it shifts to the second syllable, photographic, it moves again.
Yeah.
It's almost like each related word is playing by a different set of rules.
I know, it's really confusing. And they even had a little anecdote from a listener in the episode, and it was about adult versus DLLT
Ah, okay.
and how that shift in stress, it's not just a matter of pronunciation, it actually changes the meaning.
Like adult movies, you wouldn't say DLT movies, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
So it really does matter where you put that stress.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's not just about sounding correct. It's about making sure you're conveying the right message.
Yeah.
So it can feel random, but it's not totally random, right?
Exactly.
It's like this historical backdrop,
Yeah, it's a messy history, but it's there.
It is. It makes it a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
So, okay, given this, complex history and this messy mix, are there any, principles we can actually hold on to?
There are. The English with Confidence episode, they outline some rules that work a lot of the time. Not all the time,
Okay.
but, better than nothing, right?
Right.
And the first one is this idea of the noun versus verb rule.
Okay, so how does that work?
So basically, if a word can be both a noun and a verb, you'll often see a stress shift between the two.
Okay.
So when it's a noun, the stress will usually be on the first syllable.
Okay.
Think about like a record, like a vinyl record, or a present, like a gift.
And then when you use the same word as a verb,
Yeah.
the stress usually moves to the second syllable.
Okay.
So you would record a song,
Okay.
or you might present an idea.
Got it.
So it's the same word, but that shift in stress tells you if it's a noun or a verb.
Okay. That's super useful. Are there any exceptions? Because English loves exceptions.
Of course there are exceptions.
There has to be, right?
Yeah. The episode pointed out that the word control is a big exception.
Oh, okay.
So it can be a noun, you have control of the situation,
Right.
or a verb, you need to control your spending.
Right.
But in both cases, the stress is on the second syllable.
Gotcha.
So, it's a good rule, but it's not perfect.
Okay, so we've got that one. What's another trick? I remember something about suffixes in the episode.
Yes, this is a good one. The precipidation, or a hike trick.
Okay.
So words that end in these really common suffixes, they almost always have the stress on the syllable that comes right before the suffix. It's pretty reliable. So you see a word ending in K station.
Right.
You count back one syllable, boom, that's where the stress is going to be.
Gotcha.
So like education,
Okay, yeah.
the stress is on co, right? Right before that embratation.
Yeah.
And it works the same way with Ike, like economic.
Okay.
The stress is on no before the Ike.
Right, right.
So that's a really, really good one to remember. It can help you with a lot of those longer words, which could
Yeah.
be tricky.
Right. It's like that suffix is giving you a clue,
Exactly. It's like a little signal.
a little signal. Okay, so we've got the noun verb thing, we've got this suffix thing.
Yep.
I also remember there was something about how we stress compound words.
Yes, compound nouns, those words that are made up of two or more words, they often follow this pattern where the stress is on the first part of the word.
Okay.
So think about a blackboard.
Okay, yeah.
The emphasis is on black, not board.
Right.
Or a notebook. Again, note, not book. So it's like you're giving more importance to that first part of the word, the one that kind of describes the thing.
Right, right. It's like the more important part of that word, in a way.
Exactly. And I remember the episode had this really good pro tip.
Okay, what was that?
It was all about speed.
Speed.
Speed. So if you're unsure about where the stress falls in a word, try saying it at a normal speed, like you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Don't slow down. Don't overthink it.
Got it.
Because a lot of the time, native English speakers, we just naturally put the stress in the right place when we're not even thinking about it.
Yeah, like your instinct kind of takes over.
Exactly. It's like, oh, this is just how we say it.
Right, right. Because I think when you slow down, sometimes you can get a little bit thrown off.
You overthink it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked up the why.
Yeah.
We have talked about a few rules to kind of help us figure it out. But the episode also highlighted something really important about word stress, which is how it can change the meaning of a word.
Yes. This is where it gets really tricky and interesting.
Yeah.
Because we have these words that are spelled exactly the same.
Huh.
But depending on where you put the stress, they mean totally different things.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why word stress is so important for communication. Because it's not just about sounding good. It's about being understood.
Right. Can you give us some examples of that?
Yeah, a classic example is content.
Okay.
If you stress the first syllable, it means you're happy. But if you stress the second syllable, content, it's like what's inside something.
Right, like the contents of a box or something.
Exactly. Same letters, completely different meanings, all because of that little stress difference.
It's like two words hiding in one word.
It is. It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
Another good one is object.
Okay.
Object. First syllable stressed, it's a thing.
Right.
But object, second syllable stressed, it means to disagree.
Gotcha.
So, I object to your statement.
Right.
It changes the meaning completely.
Okay, that's a good one.
And then there's the classic dessert versus desert example.
Oh, yeah. That one always gets people.
This one's good because the episode had this fun little memory trick for it. So, desert, first syllable stressed, that's the dry, sandy place.
Yeah.
But dessert, second syllable stressed, that's the sweet treat.
Okay.
And they said to remember it, 2s for 2 servings.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
I thought that was clever.
Yeah, that's a good one. So it's clear that getting the stress right, it's not just about being fluent, it's about being understood.
Absolutely. It can make all the difference.
Yeah, for sure. So how can we actually train ourselves to get it right without, sounding like robots.
So the English with Confidence episode had some really good ideas for that.
Okay.
And the first one is, they call it the clap test.
The clap test.
The clap test.
Yeah.
And basically what you do is you say the word and you clap your hands on the syllable that you hear stressed. So if you're saying like banana,
Yeah.
you'd clap on that N-A.
Yeah.
It's a good way to kind of physically feel the rhythm of the word.
That's a great idea. It's bringing in that physical element to it.
Exactly. Makes it a little more fun too.
Yeah. What's another one?
So another really good one is shadowing.
Okay.
And this is where you listen to a native English speaker, maybe on a podcast or a TV show, and you repeat what they're saying right after them, but you really focus on copying their rhythm, where they put the stress.
Okay, so you're kind of like their echo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're trying to be like their voice, almost.
Okay.
And it helps you to kind of pick up on those natural stress patterns without even thinking about it too much.
Right, because you're focusing on the music of it, not just the individual words.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And I think there was also like a more traditional approach they mentioned too.
Yeah, the good old dictionary. It's
Yeah.
still useful. So when you're looking up a new word, really pay attention to the stress marks in the dictionary entry.
Okay.
They gave the example of photography, and they said that a lot of dictionaries will transcribe it like this: strengify. And that little mark before the pog syllable, that's telling you where the stress should be.
Got it.
So paying attention to those visual cues can be really helpful, especially for people who are visual learners.
Right. It's that extra reinforcement.
Mhm.
And the episode also highlighted a couple of common mistakes that people make with stress.
Yes, it's good to be aware of these.
Yeah, for sure.
So they pointed out that people often mispronounce industry, putting the stress on the second syllable, but it should be industry.
Okay.
And similarly, communicate. People often stress the second syllable, but it should be communicate.
Right. Okay. Yeah, those are definitely ones I've heard mispronounced before.
Yeah, they're tricky.
Yeah.
And finally, they had another pro tip for practice.
Okay, what was that?
This one was about exaggeration.
Okay.
So when you're first learning a new word and you know where the stress should be, try really overemphasizing it when you practice. So instead of just saying like magnificent, you might say like magnificent, really hitting that first syllable hard.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then you can gradually tone it down to a more natural sound.
Gotcha.
It's like you're building up that muscle memory.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we've talked about the why, we've talked about the how. Now, the English with Confidence episode had this fun listener challenge at the end.
Yes, they wanted to put us to work.
Okay, good. I like a challenge. So what is it?
So the first part of the challenge is to become a stress detective.
Okay.
So as you're listening to English, whether it's in conversations or podcasts or TV shows, pay attention to where people put the stress in words.
Okay.
And then think about, okay, why is the stress there?
Yeah.
Does it follow any of the patterns we talked about?
Right, right.
Like, is it the first part of a compound noun? Is it before a coelation ending? Things like that.
Gotcha.
And then the second part of the challenge is to take a word with 3 or more syllables. They suggested university. But you can pick any word you like.
Okay, sure.
And practice clapping out the stress as you say it.
Okay.
So it's a good way to really get that rhythm in your body.
Yeah, I like that. And then the third part was to try to trick a friend.
Yes, the trick a friend challenge.
This is a good one.
So you ask someone to say the word address.
Okay.
And depending on where they put the stress, you'll know what they mean.
Right. So address versus address. One is location, one is to speak to.
Exactly. And the episode even had another example of this, like Polish, meaning from Poland.
Oh.
Versus Polish, like to shine something.
Gotcha.
And they were like mind blown. But it's true. It's amazing how much that stress can change the meaning.
It is. It's a tiny little thing, but it makes a huge difference.
A huge difference.
Okay, so I think we covered a lot today. Let's do a quick recap of our deep dive.
Okay.
So we learned about the historical reasons why English word stress can feel so random.
Yeah. French, German, Latin, Greek, all those influences.
Exactly. A real mixed bag. But it's not totally random. We've got some rules and tendencies that can help us out, like that noun versus verb shift, the accentuation and -eke suffix rule, and the stress on the first part of compound words.
Yep.
We also talked about how crucial stress is for conveying the right meaning, and those examples like content versus content and desert versus dessert really drove that point home.
They did. They're good examples.
Yeah. And then we give you some practical tools to improve your pronunciation, like the clap test, the shadowing method, and using those dictionary stress marks.
So many tools.
Lots of good stuff to practice with.
Yeah. And the good news is, Even native English speakers aren't perfect at this all the time.
Mm.
I bet you've heard someone say banana before.
Oh, for sure, for
It
sure.
happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So just keep practicing, keep listening, and don't be afraid to try out those techniques.
Exactly. So, for our final thought, kind of building on that trick a friend challenge, think about how often misunderstandings might happen because of those little differences in word stress, those subtle things that we might not even be aware of.
Yeah,
By being more aware of it, I think it can really help us understand each other better.
it can. And honestly, it just makes you appreciate the complexity of the English language even more.
It does. It's fascinating.
It's like a little puzzle.
It is. It is.
And every time you learn a new word or figure out a new stress pattern, it's like, aha, I got it.
It's a good feeling, for sure. All right. Well, that was our deep dive into English word stress.
That's a good one.
It was a good one. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.